Hey guys, Clary Berry here again, talking to you about Weston A Price Foundation. So what I'm going to talk about right now is the fact that they try to say that beef does not cause colon cancer. One of the ways that they try to prove this, apparently effortlessly on their site, is by saying that Mormons have lower rates of colon cancer than Seventh-day Adventists. And their premise is that Mormons eat a lot of meat while Seventh-day Adventists are all vegetarians. And they use these because, both groups are likely living, really clean lifestyles as like smoking and drinking and things like this. Okay? So that is the premise. That's what they want you to believe. And apparently a lot of people believe this kind of thing. And that's why they go ahead and copy and paste it all over the internet. It's crazy. You can see they're not writing their own things. They just copy and paste it. It's crazy. So, research, when I did my research, the research by the U.S. National Institute of Health has shown that the average Adventist in California lives 4 to 10 years longer than the average Californian. Okay? So, yes, the vegetarians do live longer. And a lot of people are, again, attributing it. They don't smoke, drink alcohol, they have a rest day every week, and they maintain their low-fat vegetarian diet with nuts and beans. Okay, they also say they have a good social network, and this has to do with it as well. Okay, so it is true, looks like, that, Adventists are very healthy. However, the fact that Weston A Price wants to say that they're all vegetarians is total BS. My sources show that only 35% of Adventists practice vegetarianism, according to 2002 worldwide survey of local church leaders. Okay? So found that to be very interesting. I've seen, everybody says, oh, at least half of all Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians. 35% is the estimate here, okay? And that's the church leaders. So if they're saying 35%, I really have a feeling that it might be less than that. And even people in this day and age say they're vegetarian and they still eat animal products like meat and chicken. So I also find that very, very interesting to consider. Now, another thing, I couldn't actually find any studies or statistics on the actual rate of vegetarianism for Mormons, but the same is true that just because a church prescribes something doesn't mean that that's what all the followers are going to do. And if you know anything about Salt Lake City these days, you might know that yes, they have, the Great Salt Lake's Mormon temples, but they also have a good hold on vegan dining. If you look at the March and April issue of Veg News, you would see that Utah's capital city was dubbed the next great vegan city. So I think that that is very interesting to compare. Okay? Oops. Lost my place here. Sorry about that. So it's maybe that these Mormons are not quite such big meat eaters as everybody wants us to believe. Also, if you go and look at studies, they also list Argentina, because Argentina is such big beef eaters and has been for a really long time that, wow, shouldn't they have more cancer and everything than Americans? However, once again, you have other factors that you need to look at. There are so many other factors. And the studies show that Cordoba has quite a bit. And the studies that they do, conclusions, red meat produced a different pattern of risk according to its fat content. Further studies should assess the possible role of cooking meat and its non-nutritional components. Okay, so these are studies. and also you can't just take one thing. You can't just say, oh, colon cancer. Vegetarian diets are well known for, their reversal in heart disease and also hypertension as well. So vegetarians have much lower prevalence of hypertension, and so when you're looking at these things, you have to take all the factors. Both, Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists avoid coffee, alcohol, but you can't just look at colon cancer. You can also look at blood pressures. The vegetarian Adventists had systolic pressures that were 8 to 9 points lower than diastolic pressures that were 6 to 8 points lower compared with Mormon omnivores. So they're actually looking at people who are vegetarian, who are omnivores, and comparing them in actual real studies, not just flat out saying all Adventists and all, Mormons. So also another thing I want to bring up is that in Argentina, red meat has actually decreased so much that they are not the number one consumer of beef anymore. They're actually down to 11th place. Well, as a country, Argentina slipped in 11th place behind New Zealand, behind Mexico in beef exporters. So they're not quite as beefy as they used to be at all. Even the largest farming association saying their smaller neighbors, Paraguay and Uruguay, have passed us. So if you're going to be scientific, you really need to look at all of the, rates of cancer from Paraguay and Uruguay as well. And also, if you're going to use, geography like this, then you can easily look at, say, Japan, who has a traditional diet much lower in fat, especially animal fat, than the typical Western diet, and breast cancer rates are low. Bam, if that's proof, then so is that. So also, you can look at Japan prior to the 1940s, when breast cancer was extremely rare, almost unheard of. Back then, less than 10% of the daily calories came from fat. So, animals, America, we eat 30 to 35%, and also eat much less of other nutrients. So, you can't just take one country, one type of cancer, one illness. Even in Japan, where they start to raise their girls on a westernized type of a diet and they eat meat daily, yes, bam, shoots right up. They have an 8.5 time higher risk of breast cancer than the poor women who rarely or never eat meat. Okay, if you need some links, just ask me. I've got all of this stuff saved. It's all right there. According to new findings from Shanghai Women's Health Study, soy intake actually helps, and this is all opposed to the Weston A Price studies where they were not eating soy, they were not eating tempeh, they were taking a soy extract, okay, who knows if it was GMO, and they were inserting it into people. That is not even the same thing as, having a daily intake of soy. And I'm not even a pro-soy person anymore. I don't even really eat soy at all. But I did feed my kids soy when they were younger, and they're perfectly healthy. So, I could just go on and on. There is so much research out there. Individuals eating beef, pork, or lamb daily have approximately 3 times the colon cancer risk. These are real studies, not just some random and vague, flippant comparison of two huge bodies of people who don't even, aren't even necessarily eating the same at all. So you can try to say that that's proof, but it's not. Honestly, I feel sorry for people who listen to Weston A Price and actually think that they have a point, because you'll find out. You may not be sick now, you may not be fat now, but you will notice the effects over the years if you continue to eat this way, and especially if you follow the 55% or up to 70 and 80%. Study from England shows that large amounts of red meat can produce genetic damage to colon cells in just a few weeks. This is a Harvard study. Okay? Crazy. Cancer is also going up in Uruguay and Paraguay. Do your research. Do not just listen to these people. And I guarantee you, when you do this research, if you have good research that you've done yourself, please bring it to me. If you think that it backs up the Weston A Price Foundation, I have absolutely nobody who has done that, or I doubt is going to do that. So really, if you're going to eat this way, at least look it up, because it's very, very, very dangerous. Eat your fruit, people.